What? All right, camera fixed. All right, there, camera. Cameron Diaz. Huh. Hello, hello, hello. Who's waiting? There's nobody here waiting. You sure the calendar in there? Nope. Hello, hello.
Hey Dominic, how are you?
Hey, Divya, is that you?
Yes.
I thought you were in Austin.
No, I'll be leaving day after.
Oh, you go. It's next week. The class is.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. We'll see where everybody's at today. Let's see what my calendar's like. Are you excited about the class next week? Give you?
Yeah, sorry, I was just unmuting it. Yes, I am looking forward to it. So I'll be leaving on Sunday, and there's a networking event on the same day.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So I actually saw your comment on Quip. So what I like doing is I like to do my homework on Word first. I just save it there and I just paste it later. So I think I forgot to do that, just the pasting part. So I just completed everything today, and
That's all right.
including.
No problem. I'm not. Look, I'm still not really good with Quip yet, and the reason I'm not good is they do a horrible. I don't understand how they. I don't understand how to pay for it and actually use it. So, you know.
Oh, we gotta pay for it?
Well, right, exactly. So there seems to be some kind of pay to, I don't know. So that's the problem with it, right? It's a tough little feller in some ways. So
Oh, okay.
we'll see. All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the call. Let's see. I'm so far behind on this stuff. All right. So we got Gil on the call. Welcome. Jazz is here. Welcome, Jazz. All right, we'll give it a few more minutes. Let me see where. All right, let's see. All right, all right, all right. I think Amy's on her way. Oh, internet issues for my beloved co-worker. Okay, there she is. Internet issues. Hello, Jazz. Welcome. All right. So welcome everybody. You may have noticed that I did not get our sales and technology coursework done, but that should be okay, I guess. It'll all get squared away this weekend. Get some stuff happening, new stuff on board, and really looking forward to it. So let's see how all this is going. Where's everybody at? So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
David, Gil, Brian, welcome to the class. We're gonna. I see you there in the background. Awesome. So we are gonna jump in. If you haven't logged into Trailhead, I'll put it in chat real quick. So it's to everybody. So the session, we're moving on to phase 2 of the way I've got it designed right now. We're gonna, now that we've basically gotten through a lot of that user, like the interface piece of it, right? Setting up how users interact with Salesforce in terms of, you know, just using the system itself, logging in, looking at leads, looking at converting leads. We haven't talked about all of the, you know, best practices or those kind of things. But let me just, before we go on, the best practice for Salesforce is using it. That's the best practice. And the only thing that happens after that is if you're using it, then if you start to just pay attention to how you're using it and start asking the question, you know, is there a different way? And look, you don't always have time to figure that out because you're just busy. You got to get whatever you're doing done. But if you took a little time every day on the user side to add, to just, maybe it's just 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day where instead of trying to get your work done, the work you're trying to get done is, hey, if I could, let me just try some things. Let me just look around some things. And it's another reason to use your developer account, right? So your developer account is there to try things in a very, very safe environment. You can't mess it up because it's free and you can always just start a new one. There's playgrounds built into Trailhead, which you can use that the same way. We'll get to that as we move forward with the Trailhead. And of course, you've got your live org, which, you know, doing your work, you can then, whatever you've practiced somewhere else, you can then try with your live org to see, because that's always going to be a different animal because there are different settings and different ripple banks, right? So the ripple could hit something else. So is everybody good with phase 1 was about user interface, getting comfortable with it, and whether you're good at it or not, you kind of got the basics. You should understand some of these other concepts as we move forward. And we're going to start getting deeper into the conceptual nature of Salesforce, as well as how the data model is set up. And we'll do that next. So we're in phase 2. The first one we're going to go through is Salesforce Platform Basics. And I'm going to go through it. One of just kind of some of the basics of it. Let's see. So any question? I got this little thing here. Is that doing its thing? Making sure nobody needs anything. Let me just check my chat. All right, that's awesome. Let me just check my participant guide here. All right, that's perfect. And remember, hey, welcome, Zach. Good to see you. So again, for those of you that are in Atlanta, one little announcement is there's a thing called Salesforce Saturday that's happening this Saturday. And Salesforce Saturday is a group of people who are interested in Salesforce. It's not people who are just certified admins. But it is, let me see, let's see where it's at. So it starts at, there we go, here we go. It's at SaaS Optics. I'm going to send you the meetup. In case you're interested, this is just a little something that you might be interested in doing. Those of you that are local, I know Amy and I are going. We meet a lot of good people there. And I put that in the chat to everybody. That's where I met Zach. And I'm happy to, just meet people if you're there. Sometimes you meet people that can help you. Sometimes you meet people that annoy you. And sometimes you meet people that, you do business with. So anyway, it's there. It's available. Check it out. I was just talking to a guy today. We're in conversation about actually having one for sales operations, which is what I'm grooming all of you to manage revenue operations. So, all right, we're in the actual getting started with the Salesforce platform. So I'm going to actually put the exact module that we're in right now. And we've already seen some of this, right? So we talked about this before, that there's two basic components of Salesforce. There's standard and there's custom. And anything that you do, there's going to be things that are standard and others that are going to be custom. So, and it's important to remember that when you hear the word standard, you think about the fact that it's hardwired, that there's not much you can do with it, and then we'll learn some of the things that you can do with it or not do with it. But you've got prospects and customers, you got leads and opportunities. That in order to, you get the business cards and then you get into a conversation that's really about making money. That's a lead, business card, and an opportunity. It's an opportunity is contained inside the accounts, which is a business that you're dealing with, and the person, that's the contact, right? So those things blend together, all standard. The mobile app is, how you take it on the go. And if you haven't downloaded the Salesforce mobile app for your smart device, then do it. And if you're the admin, the system administrator, then download the Salesforce A application and, make sure that you kind of get an idea of how that works. Just kind of put your fingers on it. You can link it to your dev org and you'll be fine. The cases are that part of Salesforce. If you got, again, it's how you track the beginning, middle, and end of a customer question, problem, or concern. Those are case records that do that. Salesforce has that built into every sales, full license, like you guys, a Salesforce license. The chatter and communities is a more robust version of chatter. So if you haven't gone to success.salesforce.com, loaded up your profile, do that, right? There's all the people who are connected, communities, people involved in Salesforce. That's where you'll go. And if you become a part-time consultant with us, that's where you'll spend your time to kind of find customer leads or partner leads where we can do our thing with them and you can get paid for it. And then of course, marketing, right? How do you market and communicate through campaigns or stepping up to a tool called Marketing Cloud. And if you're not familiar with Marketing Cloud or tools like that, it's basically a very robust tool to control the interactions you have with your customers based on, links that they click, emails they open, all those things that actually help you understand that customers, how they interact with you when they're interested or close to interested. So I'm trying to fix my lighting a little hot spotty here. So see if I can get it a little further away. That's not working. No. All right, Gil would be mad at me for messing with the light. My white balance is off, but look, I'll let Gil deal with that in post. So those are the things, right? So in Salesforce, remember there's all these stories of case studies of types of companies doing different business. Cloud Kicks, Ursa Major, Get Cloudy Consulting, and Dreamhouse Realty. And you meet the characters. And if you go through the trails and you do it enough, you'll start to meet and get to know like what they do, how they do it, interacting with the apps to kind of make it more real for you. But again, if you build out your developer org for your own personal use, like your own personal thing for Salesforce, then, you know, you can kind of get a sense of different ways to use Salesforce that might enlighten you and open you up to how other people do business and how you might apply those solutions to your problems, even though they're maybe only slightly similar. Now, remember we talked about the app, the object, the records, and the fields. So if we look at Salesforce, and I'm going to log in to my dev, if you log into your developer org with me. So if you go to login.salesforce.com, depending on the username you picked, if you follow my instruction, then you would use your initials plus January 2020 at superhero.com as your username. But if you didn't, that's fine. Whatever you used, however you saved it. Remember, apps, tabs, records, and fields. Make sure you understand what that is, right? So does anybody remember what an app is? You want to put it in chat or open up your mic? What's an app, an application? Again, repetition is the mother of skill, so I'm going to go over the basics over and over and over again until we get brilliant at the basics, and it's immediate. So somebody either pop it in chat or open up your mic, or I can open up everybody's mic if you'd like me to. They can be customizations that are packaged, a more generic, that's actually right. Julia, I got Jewel Jazz, all right. So an app, if you click on, whether it's classic or lightning, come on there, mouse, come on over. That if you click the 9 dots, the apps, when you change apps, you'll notice that if you go to, let's say, community, that it's a collection of tabs. An easy way to think of apps, it's a collection of tabs. Tabs typically represent objects, which are tables of data, right? So notice chatter, contacts, accounts, reports, and dashboards is all that's here in my community app. It's the same chatter, it's the same contacts, it's the same accounts, but if I change applications, if I click on that and go to service, it gives me a different selection. Why? Because that's the set of data that I need to do my job, whatever job you're doing. So if I'm customer service, then I want to see accounts, contacts, and cases, right? If I'm sales, I want to see, leads, accounts, contacts, and opportunities. I might have I don't care about all the cases. I only care about the cases that are contained, with the customers that I'm doing business with or trying to do business with. So again, it's just that collection of objects or tabs that you need to do your job. And as an individual, in Lightning especially, and in Classic, you can customize those tabs to suit your needs individually. You can add anything you want. Now, as an admin, you can also control the tabs that are visible by default inside of an application. We're going to get into all that as we go through here. So the tab is the data, the type of data. So it's called an object. And when I click on the tab, I can access some or all of those records, which are individual lines of data. So I can look at all opportunities, close next month. All of these are different views of the same data. And the controller for that is called the list view. And a list view is like a saved search. Or another way to think of it, depending on what your job is, it allows you to filter out everything else except the thing that you want to work with right now. So depending on your time, your energy, your resources, the list view will show you the list of records appropriate to what you're trying to accomplish. And you can set those up to not only select the type of records that are visible, but also the fields that you see along the columns that you see. So depending on what they are, so let's see if I got any new last week opportunities. I don't think I do. Oh yeah, I have one we did last week with the Euro currency test. That is a record, right? And again, think about this. Why would I need a list called new last week? Well, have you ever heard of cracks? Cracks in the crucible? Well, here's the deal. If you're supposed to do something with all new opportunities within 7 days, and yeah, Divya, hang on a second, and I'll answer your question in a second. If you have to do something within 7 days, isn't it good to find out what came in 7 days ago? Like last week, these are all the new ones. Did I do the thing I'm supposed to do? And you could put a column that shows the field of data that would record whether you did the thing you're supposed to do. So yeah, Divya, you have a question? You want to unmute yourself? You want me to unmute you?
Yeah, so my question is, sometimes standard objects like opportunities, leads cannot be seen on homepage. So how do you see that?
When you say they can't be seen on homepage,
yeah,
what do you mean?
Right now on your screen, I can see opportunities, leads. I cannot see that on my page.
Which application? And what's the words next to home on yours?
Oh yeah, just give me a second, please.
Yep. So everybody take a look. The words next to, between home and 9 dots is the name of the application you're in. The application holds the tabs that are relevant to that collection that you put together and give it a name. So what
it says chatter, accounts, contacts, cases, but I cannot see opportunities and leads. Is that something that I have to add?
What is the word between 9 dots and home? On your screen, when you see where mine says sales, what does yours say? It's a lot of clicks.
I have so many tabs open.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. All right.
It says service.
Yeah, right. So you're looking at different tabs. So remember, go click on the 9 dots and collapse the boxes. You see all these items? All of the items are all of the tabs you could have visible, but all of those won't fit on one page of your computer screen. If they would just have everything along the top and you would be fine right there. The problem is, as you build out your Salesforce, this number could grow from whatever it is now, 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it could grow from 48. Mine's at 40, what, 40, 49. I've seen as many as 697 items in the navigation. So you can't have that many tabs on your screen. You have to focus as to what you're trying to do. So when you pick, that's what I'm saying, pick different apps and see what changes. So I would bet that if you picked content, I think content is a pretty small collection of tabs. So that's exactly, like, it's just home and chatter, right?
Oh, okay.
So as you change the application, the word, you change the tabs that are default visible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. By the way, these are the basics that get you if you don't understand like the language and what's happening. If you don't do it a lot, you don't see it a lot, it doesn't make sense to you automatically, but it does help you to understand when we get into the security model and why, you know, people do what they do for their job. Not, think about your company. Unless you're a company of one, but I was listening to my book today, re-listening to a book. I'm going to show you that I was listening to it. Hang on a second. See that book? See if you can see it. Wait a minute, where is it? The E-Myth Revisited. See that? E-Myth Revisited. So the E-Myth is about business systems. And I'm trying to get in my head, right? Like, so you think about it, even if you're a solopreneur all by yourself, there are lots of different jobs that you do. Matter of fact, you do all the jobs in your company. And I just got finished with the part of the book that said you have to draw out your company in its final state as an organization chart. And then your name might be the one person doing all those jobs, but every job is different inside of a company. Just think about the basics: sales, service, production. Like production being anything that you sell that you have to service is your production. So everybody's going to need to see or interact with different data at any particular different time, yet that's what the applications are for. And why that's important as an administrator or as a business analyst, which is really what this course is teaching you to be. I'm thinking about renaming it to SuperHero Business Analyst, because you have to solve the problem of how to show the right person the right data at the right time to do the right job for whatever's required, for whoever the customer is, whether it's internal or external. That's important, and that's an important aspect of understanding how Salesforce is has inside of its capabilities the ability to change how you present data and to which person based upon what they need to see and what they need to do to fulfill their job. Does that make sense, everybody? So you always have to be thinking about what controls what people see and what they do. And we'll talk about that as we move a little further, but you got to understand what they're controlling and what they're doing if you don't have a lot of experience on the platform. These are great questions for that. So that's so we looked at an opportunity is just a type of data, homogeneous data. It separates everything else. So if I look at an opportunity, this is a record, which if I look at it in terms of a table of data, right? A table of data is more like a spreadsheet, right? There's columns and rows. There's just more columns and rows than you can show on the list view, but they're still all there in the full-on table. And you click on the details tab of any record, because remember the relationship in the CRM, the R of CRM is relationship, and the relationship is between all of these details and details somewhere else. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at it. On this opportunity record, I know the opportunity owner, Dominic Karuba. Now, I could have just typed in Dominic Karuba. Why is it a link? What's the linky thing for? Who knows what's going on there? Why is that a link between this record and another? What is that field called, or what is it doing? Who knows what's happening there? This is where you unmute or you put in the chat. Anybody have a clue? So when you look at one of those opportunities and you see where it says owner, what is happening there? Why is there a person's name that's highlighted in blue with a link to it? This is where we talk. Come on now. How do I unmute all again? Am I not the host right now? Hang on, I'm not even the host. What? There we go. All right, in 3, 2, 1, I'm gonna, the user, oh yeah, that's right, David, that's the user number, but why has it got the blue link? So when you look at that record, the owner has a blue link, the account name has a blue link, right? Why is that? Why is the blue link? What's there? Why is it there like that? Who knows? So, all right. So what this is, product. This is, right? When we look at what's called, this is a schema builder. So when you look at this, this is how the records are organized. So let's look at it from a data point of view, right? So on my opportunity, I've got all of these records. Can y'all see my screen okay? So when I look at my opportunity record, why can I not? What are you doing now? You always make these changes to me, Salesforce. Right, here it is. So there's my opportunity owner. It's a lookup field, and it's looking up to the users in my account. So let me take away this one. Take away that. Oops. Does that make sense? So it's looking up to another data. So it's the relationship of the relationship manager. It's how these records are related. So I can look at one piece of data, and then I can go see other records that are related. So if you look at the related tab, you can see that opportunities could have products, they could have notes and attachments, they could have different contacts. All of that's built into this, what's called schema. Let me bring up my other schema. Right? If you look at what an opportunity contact role is on an opportunity, they're not users, they're actually contacts that are associated. This is getting messy, right? So I'm going to take the user out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my account. So you can see my account object way down there, right? So at the core of all of my work is how things are connected, right? The account is related to this opportunity. The contact is part of the account, that contact role. Like, you see how this works itself out a little bit. Does this make sense at all? I'm trying to show it to you in a different way than they kind of describe it. But an object is that collection of records. The relationship between the two of them is what makes it a relationship system, right? You can see how they're related, what fields are connected to other fields. Like the account name is connected to the account name in the object, right? So it's looking up to a table of data instead of typing it in manually. What's good about that? Well, I don't have to enter data every time. How many of y'all been to the doctor lately, or even in the last 10 years? Because it still happens lately, even though we don't need it to happen. You go into a new doctor, you get new health insurance, you got to fill out all the forms. On the top of every form is your damn name. And they want you to fill it out every time. Like, no, I always say page one, page one, page one. I wrote it once. I'm not writing it at 10 more times because you've got individual records. I'm always the same patient, so all of these things relate to me. So that's how the data works. So I've got the record itself is a collection, and all the different fields make up my data. Any questions about the structure of the data? Okay. Now in this playground, this thing, we talk about creating your own trailhead playground, which is another kind of, it's basically a developer account. It may have features built in, it may have records built in, it may be built for one of those 4 companies, like different sample scenario data. But when you're done with this particular one, you would take the challenge. I'm going to retake the challenge for you. And what we're supposed to do is add a custom field to the contact object, right? A custom field to the contact. So we're now saying, hey, for all of my business contacts, I need to know their job anniversary, because that triggers some kind of thing that I can do. So, but that's not built into Salesforce standard. I've got to be able to customize that. So I'm going to go ahead, and this is I'm going to launch my playground, which is really the same one I have open right now. You could launch a new playground, or you could launch your developer account. And if you haven't done this yet, I'm just going to demonstrate how this works if you haven't done it yet. I need to create a field called loan amount on the contact object. So let me just jump in there. Here's how it works. So I go to the object manager, which these are all of my tables of data. I'm going to go to the contact object. These are all of the customizations that I can do, even to a standard object. Now, there are standard fields that are built in. And when you go and you'll see, these are all of the fields that are built into the contact object. Now remember, contact's a standard object, but I can add custom fields and I can make slight changes to the individual fields that were given to me by Salesforce, but not a lot of changes. I can't change a lot to them. But in this exercise, we want to create a new field called loan amount on the contact object. So on the contact object, I click on fields and relationships. I click on new. And then I've got a selection of all the different kinds of custom fields that I can create that match the kind of data that I need to collect for the kind of data that I'm using. So what I mean by that is, on each object, each object of data should be a type of data. Contact data, which is about people that work for an account, which is about a company. And then there's lead data, or there's opportunity data. All these are standard. Or maybe you track loan payments. Well, that's not built in here. So you got to build an object called loan payments, right? And I could keep track of all of the loan payments that are made. And then I could report on it, customize all the things, right? So all the fields that I can create, every field has a data type. The one that we're creating for loan amount is, let me see if there's something in here already. Okay, so they want to do, there's another one that's built in as an example. That's not part of the challenge. We're going to do it both. We'll do both. So the first one we're going to do is we're going to create a currency field, right? Because loans are money. Now you can scroll down and see all of these. We're going to end up creating a field for all of these at some point, right? And then they are just what they are. It's the type of data, how it formats the data in the field itself. So I'll click next. Now I have to give it a name. And that name is loan amount. I'm going to go with 2 decimal places. A couple things about fields and these fields when you're developing it. A description field is the loan amount. Should always have a description. Now, they're not testing for it in this trailhead, but why do you need a description? I don't know, Divya. I don't know the maximum length. Whatever, like reasonable number. I would, did they have any kind of indications here? It depends on the requirements. But I would say loans would not be more than 8 figures, but I don't know if it really matters. Does that answer your question? So it really depends on the requirements. Divya asked, what would the maximum length be? And it really depends on what the field is. If you try to go outside the boundaries, and that's where like you get really technical. When that matters, there's documentation for it in the help.salesforce.com that'll tell you the parameters. But let me just give you a tip. There's no reason that I can see to remember that piece of data. Does anybody know why? Why would it be useless to remember how long a number field can be? Because if you don't deal with it all the time, if you're not doing 100 number fields a day for 100 different clients and you need to know, why do you need to know that? Somebody else knows that. The database knows it. The documentation knows it. The system knows it. If you try to do a number field that's 180,000 long, guess what's going to happen when you try to save it, it's going to go, that's whatever that is, you went too crazy. So I'm going to stick with like the basics, the defaults, typically, unless it's got to be different. Again, the background reason why certain things you don't need to remember is because in 4 months, it could change. Why 4 months? Because Salesforce releases new features and changes every 4 months. It used to be every 3 months. Now it's every 4 months. I hope to go to every 6 months. Like they need to slow their roll a little bit. They're getting a little too, they need to make a little more profit, buy another building on the East Coast. So the other thing is help text. Help text should be helpful. It should say, what is the like I like to put them in the form of a question that's very specific and tells the reader how to answer the question with the right data. That's me. That's my preference. You can do it any way you want. Now, this required checkbox is a system requirement. We'll come back to the impact of that later, but if you make this field required, then every user that can edit this kind of record must enter data there if it's not. What's the impact of making a field required is that you are forcing people to put data into that field. And that is awesome if you need that data and they have it. If they don't have the data, they're still going to have to put something in there because you made it required. So requiring fields at the system level is always dangerous. It should only be done when it's absolutely sure that for this type of data, there's no reason somebody would enter a record at any time without knowing what that field is. If not, you can make it required in a different way later on. But a lot of people make that mistake when they set up a field. They're like, oh, I need that field, I want it required. And then they wonder why they have a lot of junk because, you know, if I just created the contact and I haven't even talked to them yet, I don't know their loan amount. I haven't talked to them yet. Whoa, I need it, data guy. Well, sales guy says, I don't have it. I'll just put something in there. You force that crap, so don't do it. The default values are just that. If you want to put a 0 as a default, if it is required, you could do that. You could even create a formula that calculates the default. You could do anything you want to do. It's all good. I'm not going to go too deep into that. It's more of an advanced thing. And if you use it, you'll get it. Now, let's see. There you go. There's your answer, by the way, give you 18 digits total. I would imagine that I'm dealing with people that are probably going to have less than 10 digits as a loan for me in this company. But there you go. There's the other little piece of Salesforce. Why don't you remember it? Because Salesforce will tell you sometimes. So why bother? So I said the system knows. So don't even bother remembering stuff that doesn't matter. I'll tell you the stuff you got to remember for the test, right? You'll practice that. Now, this piece right here, we're going to get into what this means, but field level security is, let's say loan amount is a lot like social security number or credit card number. You don't want all of your users to be able to see that data. And there's different ways that will show you how to hide data from users. That's not appropriate for them in their job, their position, or anything else, or even because they're just who they are, right? But that's what data field level security is for. You could do field level, record level, object level security, even organizational level security, right? So what's organizational security? We did it in the beginning. You had a username and a password. And that's something you know. And the thing you have is a trusted way to get in from the interwebs, right? A cookie on your browser or a trusted IP address. We'll talk about how that settings go. But notice all I can say, who can see this field and who can edit it. I can control that all right here. What are the groups of people based on by profile that can see a field? So you can control, even at the field level, which groups of people, that is, which profiles, can see or edit any particular field. It's called field level security. We're going to get into that, but that's an important part of the security model. But as you're creating fields, you could even say, you know what? All of these people except for the contract manager and the salesperson and maybe the support person. And now this is a lot of profiles for such a small organization. And the system administrator, yeah, system administrator. You can keep a system administrator from seeing or editing a field. Yeah, as a system administrator, yeah, you can do that to yourself, but you can also undo it. Like you can also show it to yourself. So you could set all those things up, click next, and then you decide where does that field show up. There's a thing in Salesforce. When you look at a record in Salesforce, show you a record in Salesforce. When you look at this record, this is on a page. So this page is laid out. This is called a page layout. Are you keeping up with me on here? Some brilliant terminology, right? But that's how it works. So you've got a page layout, and I've got a new field. So the question is, do I want to put that field on every page layout that I have? And maybe support doesn't need it. Maybe marketing doesn't need it if you've created page layouts just for those groups. Now, here's what I always recommend. If you don't know, then just put it on all of them. You can always take it off or put it on none of them, or just put it on the ones you know. I'm going to put it on all of them. I'm going to leave it by default. But again, you control all of the fields that show up on different page layouts. And we'll talk about later how, just like you assign field level security to profiles, you also assign page layouts to profiles. So a group of people can see data the way they need to see it. A salesperson may need to see it from left to right. Some other person may need to see it from right to left. I don't know. You create a profile, make it happen that way. Does that make sense? Okay. And then finally, I save that field. Now, when I'm done customizing that field, in this example, I'm going to check the challenge to see to earn my 500 points. And oh, I gotta add that one earlier. So what's that, pre-qualified? I didn't add that one, so I'm not gonna pass the test. So I'm just gonna add a new field. Oh, I already had this one done before, which is why it passed. Okay. So again, that I don't know if that's true or not. Pre-qualified, let's do that one anyway. So pre-qualified is a field. I'm gonna do it again. It's called a checkbox. So it's a checkbox field. You'll see that I click new field from the object manager. So I'm going to just give you a click tour where I'm at. I'm in setup, and I'm reading the screen to show you how to navigate for yourself. I'm in the object manager for the object contact. I go down, I'm in fields and relationships, and I click new field. I click the new button for fields and relationships. And now I pick the kind of field I want, which in the exercise is a checkbox. And then I click next. And I'm going to call this pre-qualified because I copied and pasted it. Again, description is for your future self. It is always a best practice. Have you pre-qualified. Oops, that's my help text. And maybe look, this is a manual thing. Right? So understanding what the business needs and why it needs it and why you're creating a particular field is always a good idea to tell yourself now, putting it in the description. You don't need it now. When do you need the description? In the future. So you always fill out a description because you're taking care of your future self. So those of you that eat healthy, exercise, limit your smoking intake to nothing, all those things, you're not doing that for your pleasure now. You're doing that so you can be living later and maybe have pleasure later. So if you're not happy now, go ahead and eat all the bacon you want, so you're not going to live later anyway to enjoy it. So, right? That's your future self you're talking about. Okay. Again, I can choose who sees it. Doesn't really matter. I choose what pages it goes on, and I save that field. And now, when I go to a contact record, I'm going from the opportunity now to the account. And now I'm going to go to my contact, and I can see now on the details page that, yep, sure enough, there's a loan amount field and a pre-qualified field. And the help text that I put in is helpful. Questions, comments, concerns. Okay, great. So understanding that you can create custom fields and did I do that? Yeah, so let's go. I thought I completed the challenge. So I can go to the next one. If you don't do it, all right. All right, discover use cases. So let's go to the next one, discovering use cases for the platform. So what they're talking about here is why, who uses what and why. You know, if you think that you use, if you use email a lot, if you use spreadsheets a lot, if you rely on sharing that information with others, if you've got time intensive or repetitive steps, those are all use cases for Salesforces, right? You can list job openings. This is kind of a promotional piece. You can go through this on your own. Let's see if the challenge. All right, we talked about that. Let's talk about the architecture. Okay, we talked about some of this. So this is a good picture that I want to show you. And it's really kind of growing and expanding as we talk about it, right? So when Salesforce started 20 years ago, it started here at the Sales Cloud. Then very rapidly, they added service. Then they, you know, I don't know what order they came in at this point, but the Marketing Cloud is a separate tool. Communities are a tool, analytics, apps, which are, again, customizations to be able to hold those apps. There's actually, that's really lightning. They're talking about components and stuff stored out in the cloud. Commerce, if you do e-commerce, you know, you could buy Shopify or other, you know, one-click commerce or those other tools. Of course, Salesforce is in that game too, where you can do, you know, you set up your shopping carts and all the products you sell retail or online. You can put all that in Salesforce, it's fine. IoT is that all those little devices that talk to the interwebs. This doesn't, this is an eyeglass cleaner, but one day that'll talk to the interwebs, right? Quip is their Microsoft Office kind of thing. It's their document management tool, and some of you may have used it, some of you haven't. It's built into the platform, so you can actually integrate data from the platform with users and collaborate and communicate whether you integrate the data or not. It's pretty interesting. There's component exchanges, there's the Lightning platform, Heroku, all these different databases. All of these things are stacked. Einstein is just getting ridiculously smart. Einstein Analytics, the power of predictive analytics to help you decide based on machine learning, you know, what's next for you or your company or your customers. Really powerful tools. Social, all that's being built in. And then, of course, connect and Salesforce really at its core doesn't want to be your storage for all your data. So you may be connected to external objects that house your data, Amazon Web Services or Google Drive or Dropbox or Box or all these data storage warehouses. If you don't use the data on a regular basis, then you can store it somewhere else even. So you don't even have to have it all inside Salesforce. And that's all performance related things that you want to look at. But the goal of it is to understand that it's an interconnected web. It's but it's a control. It's not like the internet. It's controlled. It's secure. It's all those data and fields that you creating to manage your business and get all that information. It's right there for you. So there's a lot to unpack, but one of the core values of Salesforce is that because Salesforce owns it all, it can also secure its borders really well, and it's safe. So trust is what Salesforce is built on. We talked about trust, and when we built the custom homepage, we put trust.salesforce.com on there, and you could see where all the different server farms are and how they're doing. And there's people working computers in the background, even though we're living on the cloud. It's just data service somewhere. And you've got your little space, like a little apartment in a big New York high rise, right? So as long as the building stays up, you're good to go. You can do your own thing. You can have a home that's surrounded by other homes, and you're safe and secure. So your shared resources are all there. Now the metadata, so there's two types of data in Salesforce. There's your data, and then there's your data about the data, which is called metadata. So a lot of the things we just did, when we created that field called loan amount and pre-qualified, the data itself, the checkbox and the field, whether they're qualified or the amount of the loan, that's data. But the fact that it's a currency field, the fact that it's only visible to sales users and executive users and admins and accounts receivable and contract managers, and not everybody else, that data is called metadata. It's the data about your data that controls who can see and do with that data, what they can see and what they can do, how they interact with that data. That's the metadata. Now, because we're in an interconnected world that Al Gore created for us, thank you, Al Gore, the inconvenient truth of the internet is that now the cloud is also burning up the environment, because so much money and the heat and carbon that to make the electricity to keep the cloud running, Al Gore created his own little problem. It's great. I love it. But it's the internet. It's a thing called the API. Now, depending on the edition of Salesforce you have and how you can access the API, that's when basically one farm of data can talk to another data farm that are disparate outside the cloud, but it's a safe, secure connection, kind of like the president's phone, the red phone, right? It's a secure data connection between two different points of data housers. Think of it like a secret tunnel between two buildings. So, and then we'll talk about all that. I watched this video, Forecraft video, fascinating waste of time. Ultimately, basically they're saying, if you like Minecraft and you like Salesforce, you can see an ugly how they can build it out and what they did there. So there's that piece of the architecture. Any questions about the architecture? So there's data and metadata, and the data stored in different clouds in Salesforce. So we talked about setup, and in the setup home, there's basically, in the Lightning experience, there's two tabs inside setup. There's home, where most of the metadata lives, and then the object manager, which is kind of where the data lives. It's not exactly that, but it's a good way to think about it. All my metadata is in home, and all my data is in objects, sort of, but close, okay? So we've gone through that a little bit. We're going to keep going through the setup menu. This helps you get cozy with it. These are the big ones that we talked about with what's in the company. This is good to remember for the test. Like, this is a good page to kind of, for yourself, I'll pop it in this little trail, like company information. Remember, company information stores information that you want to think about, like all the defaults of your company and your headquarters. Everything gets converted ultimately to that. And that's what the users and the profiles inherit without any other changes to it. Now, the users are the people that log in to your company or the data, right? The profiles, not roles, but the profiles, and I say that because it matters. The profiles are that collection of permissions that controls what a user can see or do. So the first thing that controls what a user can see or do is the license they've been given. The second thing that controls what they can see or do is the profile they've been given. And the third thing that controls what they see or do is your security model, which has to do with how you see records you don't own. So the profile is about what things you can do that you own, and the security model controls the things you don't own. Setup audit trail is your guide. If you end up doing administration work for other people, I recommend downloading a copy of the setup audit trail every month. That way you keep a 6-month copy history of everything you've done. You can merge those together if you're really smart, and blah, blah, blah. And then login history is the same thing. Every month you should download your login history. And that way you keep an idea of who's logging in, where, when, and how. And you should have been able to do that before. So I can't retake that piece of the puzzle. Bummed out about that. And the last thing is the app exchange. So the app exchange we talked about before. We did it yesterday. Talked about how the app exchange is stuff people have already built in order to, they've already built, so you don't have to. Questions, comments, concerns. Am I good to go? All right, if you haven't completed those modules, then that might have been a little confusing, but it should be pretty easy. We talked about custom and standard objects. The we created a custom field on a standard object. So that's interesting. So what can you do with something custom that you can't do with something standard? What can you do with something custom that you can't do with something standard? Delete. Very good. You cannot delete standard. Why? It's hardwired. It's part of the building. You can polish the turd a little, but you cannot get rid of it. You can hide it. Can't get rid of it, right? So again, the data model is really simple, that there's custom and standard. A lot of things are built on custom. Now, why use standard? A lot of things are built on standard, not custom. Because standard's already mature. It's old growth forest. It's got stuff built into it that's already going to save you time and effort just by using it. So always use standard as much as you can. And always download an app before you build something as much as you can. Why build something if you can buy it? If you buy it, whether it's free or money, you don't have to maintain it. The owner does. You're just the tenant, so to speak. So same kind of thing. Now in this challenge, you're to create a custom object. That'll be your assignment to do that. Create the custom field. Check all that out. I've already done all this, but you can do it as well. Let's see if I can retake this challenge, see what it does. Oh, this one is, oh, they change these all the time. I want to redo it in a minute to build out this custom offer object. Well, let's just do it. Let's launch our playground, which I already have launched. And let's start at the very top. If you haven't done this, let's go ahead and start at the top where we create a custom object. So if you're in your developer playground or your whichever playground you're in, we're going to, from here, we're going to go to Object Manager. Now, if you're flipping between screens, this is, whoops, I will put the tab of where we're at in the chat. I've launched my Object Manager. Oh, where'd everybody go? There we are. Okay, there we go. I'm going to create an object called property. So here in Object Manager, I'm going to click the create Oh, look, now this is a new feature of Salesforce. I could create a custom object and build it all out myself, or I'd create a custom object from a spreadsheet. Hashtag stop using spreadsheets, but if you don't have, if you can't, that's okay. You could do it here. We're not going to get into all that. That's an advanced, it's not advanced, it's kind of a new tool, but it adds some variation to what we're trying to do. I want property, and then my plural is properties. I would give it a description if I felt like I needed to. We will, look, here's what I'll do in training. You never have to put a description during training in, okay? You don't have to. I'm always gonna say, no, in training, you don't have to put a description, but in real life, you'll always put a description, right? I'll always make that in reference, so you don't have to. I am gonna choose some things on it. Let's see, I'm gonna launch the new custom tab wizard, but let's look at a couple things about it. A couple of optional features. Do I wanna allow reports? Do I want to report on this object? Most times it's yes. Do I want to allow the attachment of activities? Is this something that there could be activities? So it depends on your business. If I'm a property manager and I've got to, do something for a property, I might want an activity to be able to do that. Do I want to be able to track field history? That is, when you see field history, it's talking about changes in the field, the who, changed what from whatever to whatever they changed it to when did they change it? Do I want to allow that? And do I want to allow that to show up in chatter groups? So if I want these records to be brought into chatter, am I going to collaborate on it, communicate about it? Those are all important things. And then, is this ready for prime time, or do I just want to use it and then deploy it? Right now we're just going to do deploy. A couple of other things is, do I want to allow it to be searched? So when I said global search at the very top, searches everything in Salesforce. It searches every standard object in Salesforce and all the custom objects that you've allowed search for. Now these other ones, do I want to add notes and attachments, related lists to the page default? And do I want to launch the new custom tab wizard after saving this object? So remember, objects are represented by tabs, more accurately saying that every tab represents an object. Asterisk, reports, dashboards, home, not so much, but you get what I'm saying, most of them. This is where you choose that when you're creating a custom object. This is something people need to see and do stuff with. How do they need to see and do it? It goes back to, oh yeah, Salesforce is all about a couple of things. What users, what do they, what do they need to be, what is every one of your employees or, staff, people that use in this system, what do they need to see? What do they need to do? How are you going to do it? Those are the three basic questions. If you ask all the time, you start to see the big pieces about where Salesforce addresses that all the time. A lot of settings to address basically those three questions. What do they need to see? What do they need to do? How do they do it? And that's the same thing I use for training. What do you need to see? What do you need to do? And how do you need to do it? So now I got the wizard launched. And the thing about wizards, and I'll say this a lot, wizards have special powers. If you study or if you've seen movies with wizards in it, every wizard's got their special power. Different than a magician who has his special illusions. A wizard takes you through a ritual to produce a result. And every wizard has a ritual for a result. So same's true with this. This is taking us through a wizard that's going to create our tab, give it the characteristics that we want, so we can do it now in a formal way, so we don't have to come back and do it later. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, let's see, All right, so there's not much I got to do. So I picked the tab style, and this is more of a classic thing, but this is properties, and I want to see, an icon of a building, and it's all great. Do I want a splash page? I don't have it. Do I need a description? These are properties. Whatever I'm using this for You're not telling yourself now, you're telling your future self later, because you will forget why you're doing stuff today. I guarantee it. Don't be a jerk to yourself. Now, I have to ask, what are the settings? What are the visibility? Remember, see and do. What are the visibility settings for this tab? Are they always on for all users? Like the home is always on for all users, all applications, all the time. There's always a home tab. Does this object need to be seen by everyone by default? Or is it default off? Or is it hidden? I don't care. Or do you want to apply it based on every person? If it's hidden for most people, little trick I can show you, right? So if it's on for most people, you could choose default on for every profile and then change the ones that it's not. If it's default off for most people, then you can go back and change to the ones that it's default on, depending on which profile would need it. If it's, and I was just gonna, or if it's hidden for everybody, it's just a quick way, depending on how many profiles you manage. Now, I was at a company teaching the 5-day class. They had 757 users and 252 profiles. It was we'll talk about why that's such a bad idea, but this is a lot just for this. So as you start to grow and develop, this becomes, a lot to manage. And even in this org, this is a lot of profiles to manage. I'm going to go tab hidden for most everybody except system administrator, and I'll put it default on so you can just see it. And I'll hit next. And then you decide, okay, default on, but for which apps? What are apps? A collection of tabs. What am I creating right now? A tab. So what apps does this tab belong to? So I'm going to turn the tab off for everything except my I'm going to turn it off for everything but community. Why? Because community ain't got nothing on it anyway, right? So I'm going to turn it off, take it out of the mix of tabs. But remember, so let's take a look at this for a second. Let's go back to step 2. Anybody that logs into the community, by default, the tab will be hidden. So I'm going to change that to default off. What's the difference between default off and hidden? Well, I'll show you. Let me just show you real quick. Default on, look at my sales app. Leads are on by default in this application. Let me go to all of these other tabs are default off. Anything that's hidden doesn't show up. It doesn't mean it's not there. It just means those users with that profile can't see it in this list of items. So it's not security, it's visibility. I'm saying I'm creating this tab called properties, and only system administrators are going to see it, and they're only going to see it on the community app. Why? Because that's how I'm setting it up. Whoops. Default on. Now I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go to custom sales profile, and I'm going to put it hidden. So sales and service, I'm going to hide it completely. Everybody else can see it. I'm going to put it on the on the community tab only, and click save. So now that I'm done with that, I'm just going to show you. If I go to the community tab, you can see, wait a minute, Tom, you said it was on. I'm a system administrator. Let me refresh the page. Watch. Ta-da! Where's my properties? Doesn't that show up? Oh, wait, I had it. What did I set it at? Oh, I got to go to my tab settings now. Is it there yet? Let me see if it's there. See if it's still. There's my properties tab. There it is. Did I have it as default off? I can't remember. I'm going to find out. Watch this. I'm going to go to tabs. And if I spell it right, it'll actually pull up. So I go to my tabs tab, see what my properties are. It won't be there. So the wizard, again, has special powers. So now I got to go back to where, I didn't remember where it is, but I know where it lives or where it could live. I control that the profile. Let me go to my system administrator profile. Oh, I know why. Because actually, let me go to my custom sales profile. So my custom sale, by the way, you can't, why it didn't take is, should have taken, let me see something real quick. Why did it not take? Let me go back to my system administrator. Just take a look. I'm going to edit my system administrator profile and let's look and see. Do I have the community app assigned? Yes. Do I have my property? Here's my properties. Default on. See, those are all my standard. Here's my custom tab. Default on. But because it's a system administrator profile, sometimes the settings don't always work. So let me just change my custom sales user, because you can change custom a lot easier. I'm gonna go to my sales user. My community app is on. My properties is tab hidden, so I'm going to put that to default on. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to assign, I'm going to go, hope I have one of my users. There's Amy, she's a standard user, so I'm going to change Amy to a custom sales profile. Why do I not have my login? See where it's at. So I need to enable, I'm doing something special. Just watch what I'm doing. I'm enabling the ability for me to log in as another user. So I can go to Amy's profile. And now I can log in as Amy. So you can see what I did, right? So I turned on in the communities. This is my classic view. Let's see how it works. And it's not showing for some reason. Something happened. We'll go down. I'm going down a ton. I didn't practice this, so I don't know what I missed. I logged in as Amy. So let me log out as Amy. And all right, so I got to log back in. Fine. I may have to log back in. Yeah. Not going to worry about it. So let's finish the last little piece of this exercise together. We'll add a custom field called price. So I'm gonna go back to my property. I did deploy it, right? Okay, I'm gonna add a field. I think I'm, so what kind of field is this? Currency field, all right. Because we're gonna do a price and that's always in dollars. So we don't need more than 10. It's gonna, because it's a check, you always need to have the exact words in the exact place for a trailhead challenge. We're gonna make this required, which I don't normally like to do. Which means at the field level, notice something happens. Notice at the field level, all of my boxes are checked. So if you remember what I said before about required fields or about field level security, you can hide fields from different profiles. Well, any profile that has access to this object, that's what I'm missing. Any profile that has access to this object, every user, no matter what their profile is, has to be able to edit that field because I made it required. So that's, I can't hide it. I can't make it read only because they've got to be able to put something in there. If it's blank and they won't be able to save a record because that would not pass system validation rules. I'm going to add it to my property layout, which is a default page layout given to every record when I create it with Salesforce. And now, let's create a property record. How do we do that? Let's go back to sales. I still want to say, is it in community? All right, we'll see. Did I make it available? No, I did not. So I have to go here. Remember, this is my properties. I'm going to look at all my records, which should be none. I'm going to click new. Property name. And my price. Remember, Salesforce Lightning loves the letters. And I could choose any one of my active currencies because I'm a multi-currency organization. I click save, and now I've created a record. So life, So again, when you customize, look for ways not to customize. If you can use standard more often, it's better. Customizing for the sake of customizing. So this is a business analyst thought process. So somebody says, I need a field that does this. Great. How are you going to use it? Huh? I want to know it. I know you want to know it, but just because you want it, my kid wants, he wants Oreo cookies every day, all day. I don't give it to him. He wants peanut butter jelly sandwiches every night. I don't give it to him. But if you're about to create a field, before you create a field for somebody in your organization, usually your bossy, why are you creating it? How are they going to use it? Data that's not used is useless. You got to be able to use the data. So, be thoughtful about it and before you do it. And now I have to build out one more. It's a custom object offer called an offer name. So I need a couple of fields that I need to create. So let's do it again. And again, you're creating something custom because that's what you do. And then you can relate the two things together with some other fields. So I'm going to go back to my object manager. And if you're not there yet, get there. We're at the challenge of this trailhead. So take a minute, jump in. I'm going to do it just because I'm recording it, but you can do it at your own pace. You don't have to watch me. You can always interrupt me. If you have a question, I'm happy to go back. I'll move a little slower like I'm talking right now, so you don't have to listen. You could be going to do this stuff right now. catching up, get what you're comfortable with, all that. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So you can catch up with this exercise. Your assignment is to take the challenge. So I'm going to create me a new object. It's going to be called offer. Whoops. This is going to be an auto number for the record. So when you create an object, by default, every record that you create for that object has to have a name. That's one of the standard fields that gets created. The name of that record, anyway, so you also have like system create date. You have created by date. You have the couple of standard fields that always get created, like who created it, last edited date, last modified date is what it's called, last modified, and last modified user. So all of those, control are standard and even custom objects. It's a basic stuff, the name of the object. So for this one, the record name is going to be offer name. It's going to be an auto number, and our display format is going to be OF. So because it's an auto number, every record, every offer we take, because we could take thousands of offers on a property over time, is going to be OF dash and whatever number it is, and then the starting number of 1, right? All right. So I'm not going to go through the wizard for this one because this one offers don't need a tab. Let's say they don't need a tab. So I'm just going to save the object. I'm going to create a field called offer amount, which is a currency field, and a target close date. So I'm going to go to my fields and relationships. So yeah, here's my created by the currency because it was a currency field, pick list because we have multi-currency selected. Last modified date, offer name, and owner. So created by the ID. It'll have a created date field that just doesn't, you can't do anything with those fields. They're system fields. We're going to create a new field for offer amount for currency field. And look, the more you do these, the faster you will get. So slow down, take your time. You'll get faster, don't you worry. I like to have, so this one's going to be 10, 2. So we require, no. Get visible to all of them. I got one more to create. Target close date, which is a date field. Now notice you have date fields and date and time fields. They are exactly as they describe. One carries just the calendar date. The other carries the calendar date and the time something happens. And you can, down to a second, even a microsecond, I think they do tenths of seconds. If you want to, you literally can use that for triggering and data and all those other things. If you want to, depending on your job, what you need, how detailed you need to get, you totally can. Target close date. Now, you might be saying, can I just use the opportunity instead of this? Like, yeah, use the opportunity for your record. This is just exercise. And now when I'm done, let's click the challenge and see, did it work? If it did, great. If it didn't, go back. It's your assignment to fix it. Any questions, comments, concerns? Offer amount doesn't exist. What are you talking about there, Willis? Oh, see, offer amount doesn't exist, but offer amount does. So I need to go in, edit that field. Offer amount. Yeah. That's what it's looking for. Because see, look, computers are dumb. They only do exactly what you tell them. I said offer amount, no T. It said, nope, didn't pass the test. I'm looking for offer underscore amount double underscore C, which means it's a custom field. And if it didn't find exactly what it's looking for, it doesn't accept it. Otherwise, it does. Woohoo, you're good to go. All right, let me know when you're ready to jump on. Now, I'm going to show you this really quick. 2 ways to import data. Only one way to export. Well, there's more than one way to export data. There's 3 ways to export data. But I'll give you a couple minutes. Give me some kind of feedback that you're done with this particular exercise if you are. Or if you need more time, you need a handy dandy. I'm going to unmute everybody. Or green, or if I don't get green check boxes. There you go. Thank you, Jules. Jewel Jazz. Jazzy. Jazzini. And then I'm going to jump in. And again, if you ran into any trouble, let me know. Yeah, we got trouble right here in River City. That's trouble that rhymes with P, that stands T, that rhymes with trouble with a capital T that rhymes with P, stands for pool. All right. Do you know how to do the green check box? Or you just not want to communicate with? Okay. I'm going to unmute you guys. So if you're doing anything weird, in 3, 2, 1. Jules, I'm going to go ahead and mute you since you gave me a green check box. Come on, unmute everybody. Everybody's unmuting themselves. Can I unmute everybody? All right, y'all unmuted but muted. Zach, did you get this done okay? Pretty easy?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't really had any problems.
All right, good. So I'm just going to show you. Can you see this little thing I just put in front of the screen with all our names on it? Or is it a big gray box in the middle of your screen that you see right now?
No, I still see the trailhead. I don't see anything pop up.
It's just a thing of Zoom. So if you click on your Zoom participant, you know, the little bar at the top or bottom of your screen, wherever it's at with the little green that has ID and whatever on it. Click on that and then click participants. There'll be a little bar. You can put a green checkbox, a red. There you go. See if you got it, Brian. You good? Gil, Zach, there. Click a little, give me a green checkbox. All right. I'm going to mute you, Zach. All right. So there's 2 fundamental ways to get data into Salesforce. Data import wizard and data loader. So data import wizard only does one thing, and it does it well with limitations because it's a wizard. What do you think data import wizard does? Just give me a shout. It only does one thing, You might want to take a guess at what that one thing is. Import. That's right. Never does it export. It doesn't delete. It doesn't remove. It doesn't change. It doesn't do anything but take data and bring it in. Right, good? It takes data and it brings it in. It's all the import wizard does. That's on the test. There's a question on the test that will, I got you muted now, Gil. There's a question on the test about data loader and import wizard. Data loader is like a dump truck. Whether it's driving in or driving out, it just takes the data and carries it wherever you want to go. You want to carry it in, carry it in. You want to carry it out, carry it out. Data loader. Everybody with me? Import wizard. Import wizard is a wizard. It's got special powers, very limited, but lots of cool things built into it. Data loader, dumb truck. It's a dumb truck. It just carries. It's a big bucket that moves data in and out. We'll talk about what the differences are in those. So data import wizard is for small amounts of records. I got a customer right now. He's got 175,000 records he wants me to do. I can't do it with data import wizard. Why? Because it's over 50,000 records. Now I can take that file and every 40,000 records or 49,999 if I want to be slick. I try not to push it to the edge. I would actually, I'm probably going to batch them up into 10,000 records and do 17 imports. It's safer, it's secure, whole 9 yards. I can just break it up and do it. Data import, the wizard is, we're going to go through the wizard in a minute, but the wizard just imports. It's a small amount of records, but it controls a lot more. It'll prevent duplicates. It will trigger automation. So if you have something like an automated response or an automated assignment for a lead or a case, well, you can't do cases, but for a lead or something, then it will automatically do stuff. The data loader just loads and unloads, loads and unloads. So it just dumps the data into your system. So you use it when you have less than 50,000 records, you want to trigger automation, but that's a dangerous statement right there. It can trigger automation, but it is not an automated process. Data loader, on the other hand, you can actually schedule data to happen automatically in and out, and it's a different system. You can put a schedule, you can run it either from your local computer, or there's a new product called dataloader.io. It's a website. Again, the free version doesn't do it, but the paid version does. Data loader is free, and you can set all that up, and we're going to kind of get into that. You just need to know the difference between the two at this point in your training. If you use them more, you'll get to learn them. And these are the free tools. Are there other tools out on the App Exchange that you can pay money for and get more features and more functionality? And the answer is, heck yes. The answer is always yes with Salesforce. The question is how much time and money you want to spend to have it be that way. So data loader is big jobs, import wizard, small jobs, very specialized, more control. So the most important thing, and I have a client right now that 175,000 records. I uploaded 500 records 650 records as a test. The test didn't go so well. So now I got to fix some things, right? So, that's why I did a test of a couple hundred records. Like I mismatched and something happened with the file. And now, as a test, I had to build the fields, make sure I could have a place to land, whole 9 yards. The most important thing you need to do to prepare your data, number one, you got to create all the custom fields that you want to import, right? In order for data to come into your system, it's got to have a place to land. So having a place to land is the most important thing. So the data's got to be in the same type. It's got to be the same format that you need, the whole 9 yards, in order for everything to jive really well, something to pay attention to. Now, typically, you prepare your data in something like Excel or a SQL database or an Access database, exporting your data as a text. All good, no problem. You want to clean up your data to make sure that you remove as many duplicates that could be there. And by the way, this is one of the biggest challenges for all businesses across the planet, no matter how they are. Data integrity is hard. It's not easy. It takes vigilance. It takes diligence. It takes discipline. It takes effort, and it's never done. It's like breathing. No, it's more like running. You cannot do it, but you suffer the consequences. Data management is critical. If somebody's not doing it, you're going to pay the price. So pay the price of having someone do it for you, doing it yourself, but don't pay the price of not doing it. It's a problem with a lot of companies. Don't do that to yourself. It's not fair. All right, cool. All right, cool. Now, you have to then, once you've got your data set up, you gotta basically, you're building connections, right? So if data, the birthday data in Salesforce, birthday field in Salesforce, and the birthday field in your database, if you're uploading that, you've got to map those fields. So anything coming in that column of data, you think of a spreadsheet, has to match. So you got to make sure your columns of data. Now, if you don't know how to do this, I'm gonna actually see if I've got that data file. Yeah, here we go. Here's one of them, right? So here, look, simple, right? I've got a data, I got a really simple file. I got an account name and an ID for every account, right? Well, I got to make sure that this has got numbers and alpha numbers. That's fine with me. That's just my type of field. Here's my data type, format cells. I need to make sure this is a text field so that everything's treated like text, even though it's a number, right? So everything's like it's supposed to be. I got to match it, make sure. I got to make sure that the field, remember I set the parameters on those fields? How big is the field? You don't want all your fields to be maximum size. That takes up a lot of space. And although it's all just zeros and ones, they get confused. You want to keep it compressed. You got this good database habits. The name length, right? Some of these field names are pretty long. I don't know how many characters that is, but that's probably, I don't know how to even figure out how many characters. Some figure out how many characters. That's a lot. So if I have a text field that's only 10 characters, that's going to get cut off. It's only going to bring in 10, right? Computers are dumb. So you got to make sure that your data, you got to know your data before you import or export your data. And this is only one of the files I was working with. Where's my other one? This is some corrections, right? So again, all of your headings are going to be your fields, right? And if you can have those columns in your fields match, that's more better because it makes it easier to map. If it matches your field names, that's one way to kind of help the computer out. And you want to make sure that you don't have any blank columns. Let's see. Like this one. So if I've got this one, have it in there. This one didn't have it, right? So I want to make sure all my columns and headings kind of are clean, right? Everything's clean. So, my addresses are just addresses. There's nothing in there. My address too is just my cities are cities. You gotta make sure all your data is homogeneous, that it's clean and clear of everything that it's supposed to be, nothing else. This is why I hate spreadsheets. Because when you run spreadsheets around, you don't have a way to control. Anybody can put Alabama or, in Tennessee, right? Because they don't know. They don't care. They're humans, right? They're jerks. They're Bobs of the world. They just put things where they want because that's where they're at right now. And they'll get to it later, but they never get to it. Poor data practices. So you as the admin, business analyst, consultant, you got to be able to manage and manipulate your data to keep it consistent so that you don't bring garbage in. And then, make sure that you have everything you need, or fields you don't need, you take them out of the import. You don't want to just have, you want to think necessities. What do you need? Not anything extra, right? and you can look at this video to see how it works. And let's see if this challenge, this is an import challenge. Oy vey. I'm just looking at the time and I want to make sure we get this. I will put that as an assignment for you guys to do that. Because let's see, where's the field? I mean, the database we need to download. Let's see. How do we get this data? Let's see. All right. It's been a while since I read this. So I want to cover the concepts first, but let's see. Data loader. Or let's see. None of that's on the test. Couple of things that you ought to know is that there is information missing in a cell. Should delete that row. No, the cell doesn't matter. It's the column, Divya. So Divya's question, which you can see in chat, is that if data is missing in a cell, does it matter? No, not as much. If it's missing in a column, definitely delete the column. If there's nothing in the column, delete the column. If there's something in the, you don't want to import blank columns. Just it's what happens. That's not supposed to happen is because there's nothing between commas. Sometimes two commas together, it'll like do something stupid, like skip one, and then everything from past that comma could sometimes get screwed up because it's moving really fast, right? It's processing really fast. So take the room for error out. Yeah. So you don't want to add crappy data. So you got a couple of things. That are the most important thing is that depending on the type of field, you have to make sure the data, I'm going to say it big right now, we'll do it later. You got to make sure the data jives, right? You can't have a pick list field without a matching, the values have to be the same. If it doesn't meet the criteria for a good record, it won't import that record. So if you have data validation rules, that's somewhat of automation too. That'll happen. So let's see. Where do I get the file to import? Let's see. Let me retake the challenge. Okay, it's in the challenge itself. All right. I was like, where's the file? I don't want to do it without the file. So I'll demonstrate it for you really quickly. I haven't done this in a while, but so I'm going to download, I'm going to save this link as a file. I'm going to call it, let's do this. It's a little text document. I'm going to bust it open. Okay, so this file came in it popped open as a notepad, but I'm going to open it up with Excel. So I'm going to go to my downloads file. Where did I? Oh. Where did I save that? Did I save that? Hang on a second. Where did I save it? Oh yeah, I saved it in the SuperUser Academy. Whoops. All files. There's my contact. That might have filtered it too. So now it's going to ask me, because Salesforce is Salesforce. I mean, Excel is Excel. How do you want to separate the data? It's just a bunch of stuff. I'm going to say comma separated. And this is it, right? So I got first name, last name, cell phone, email, salutation, title. Now, a couple things about this. Again, remember I said it's good to map your names. First name, name, mobile, instead of that. Email's fine. Now, there's one thing you ought to know. So the owner field, I think, Amy, if you know the name of the owner and you put it in there, actually, I'm going to take half of them out. And what happens is if you, let me get that. Why are you not clearing, buddy? Huh. File, save as. I'm going to save it as an Excel workbook first. What is this freaking problem doing? All right. What is the problem with my computer? Huh. What is going on with my computer? All right. I know how to fix you. I will just close it out. Something's in the background being weird. All right. So let's go to import wizard. So if I go to home, now there's a couple ways to import. If I'm importing these as leads, sometimes I've got an import button. You could take that button off the page for your users. You could prevent them from doing it. It brings up the same import wizard. So anytime a user imports, they either can go in the background into the setup menu, type in import wizard. The wizard. It's coming. The wizard. It does, if you notice my two screens are exactly the same, except when I did it from the leads tab, it said, oh, you just want to import leads. So it's just going to give me the leads option. If I go from the setup menu right to the import wizard and I launch the wizard, I've got a couple of choices. I can import accounts and contacts, either or both, leads, solutions, and campaign managers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 standard objects. Now, why am I stopping here? Seriously, it's on the test. So you can import 5 standard objects, any custom object you want, all your custom objects. But your standard objects, hardwired, limited to accounts, contacts, leads, solutions, and campaigns, and really campaign members. So you're saying you're moving people from one campaign to another. They did this, they didn't do that. You're putting them in, you're moving them. That's the only way to bring in and add people to a campaign. Now, doesn't matter which, I did the one from the leads, they're the same thing, it just limits it. So now if I do leads here, you have 3 choices. And data loader, it's called insert or add new. Update, which is take existing records that have a Salesforce ID with different information, bring in that new information. It's called an update. And if you're doing a combination of both, it's called an upsert. The wizard doesn't use that terminology. It says you want to add new, update existing, or do both. So it doesn't really matter whether it's add new or do both, but you can. I'm going to match by name. I can give it some source. I can assign with an assignment rule, because again, I can trigger automation. A data loader is going to bring the data in, load it or unload it, and take the data out, right? Just simple. This one, I could also assign the leads to a campaign if I had any. I could trigger workflows, all of that stuff. That makes sense? Okay, let me go back to my, see if I saved it as a, go back to my file. I got to save it as a CSV. So I don't think it's saved. Or if it did, it saved a different one. So I'm going to save it as, I looked at the data, it looks fine. I got to save it as a CSV. Import. Now I like to say ready for import, or some kind of ready tag on it. And this is the one I'm going to take. All right, I'm going to clear the contents of some of these so you can see it. Save it. Close it, and then I can add that CSV file. My all files. There's my ready to import file. Y'all see that? I click on that, and then I click next. And then we're about to end with this. So notice the owner field is unmapped. But remember, I changed the name, first name, last name, mobile, email. But so it recognized the header and the name of the field in Salesforce and made a map to it. If I leave the field unmapped with owner, then by default, Salesforce is going to make me the owner of all the records. But if I want to map it, I put in owner, but even though owner is part of the field name, its lead owner is the one that it's got to choose. And remember, computers are stupid, so it doesn't know if it's lead owner or unread by owner. It just sees owners like, I don't know which one it is, you choose. So that's what I'm doing. Now they're all mapped. Now data import wizard, if you've seen the movie Excalibur, you know that when Merlin did the big dragon's breath, if you're into that movie like I am, if not, Google it. He slept for 3 days after, right? Because wizards don't remember the settings. Data loader does. We'll do it next time. We'll do data loader. I'll click net. Oh, there's no field company name. Oh, what? Am I data loading this into am I doing this in, oh, all the contact data? Am I supposed to be doing this into contacts? Because, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing contacts. So why did it fail? Because I chose the wrong, there's a field that's required in leads, and that is and I did leads, right? And I was supposed to do contacts. Why? Because I wasn't paying attention. But that's okay, because you got to learn, right? If you don't have required fields, it won't do it. It won't bring it in. So I'm gonna do the same thing again, because contacts are about the same, except the company field's required in a lead, where it's not required in the other. So I'm gonna add new records. I'm gonna match by name. I'm gonna click my CSV file, and I should be able to get this done in just a second. It only takes a second. There, my owner field's not mapped. So I do the same thing, and now I got to do owner. And this is which owner, my account or contact record owner. It's my contact record owner that I want, because I'm just importing contacts. All 7 fields are mapped, none are unmapped. Now you can not map a field, but again, why did you put it in the file? Take it out. Start my import. And if I want to see my bulk data lead job and my quick find, if I want to see this, it's already done. But you come right to this bulk data load job and you can see if I go to my contacts, actually this one will probably go right to, oops, wrong one, sales. And if I look at my contacts created today, new this week, you can see that there'll be some that are owned by, let's see, there's Dominic Carubas. This is filtered by mine. All contacts equals this week. Huh, something happened with, where's some of those data fields? So anyway, so what are your questions, comments, concerns about, let's see, one of these contacts is John Dodge. Let's see what the dealio is with John. I'm going to search my list. There's John Dodge. Okay. So I had something messed up with the name of the owner, and all of them became my records. All right. So that's Import Wizard. When we come back on Monday, we'll do data loader, but try to do this exercise. Any questions, comments, concerns? So that's getting data in. You learned how to customize what the field looks like. Use one of the tools to bring it in. There we go. We got all those records in. And if you got the woohoo, awesome. If you didn't, reach me. The last thing is, if you haven't registered for the class, and I don't know if you did or not, SuperHero 2020 on registration from student dashboard. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Everybody got a good class? Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or just, let me know. Did y'all all learn something today? Everybody learn something new, get some goodies maybe? All right, and keep working on data management. That's importing and exporting data. We'll pick up with exporting. We'll show you a little bit more with import data with Data Loader, dataloader.io. If you haven't downloaded Data Loader, go ahead and do that. If you can on your computer, you can see how that tool works. It's a very robust tool. We'll go into more of that later. And then we'll take on the next module. And see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dominic.
Thanks, Julie. Julia. Jules, Jazz. Thanks, Divvy. Thanks, Zach.